They don't just have being overweight. They'll be pre-diabetic, where their blood glucose will be slightly elevated. They'll have mildly elevated blood pressure. They'll have increased fats, not just in their tissues, what we call adipose tissue, but also in their blood and their liver and other sites. They'll have some evidence of systemic inflammation. And another particularly interesting finding is that many of them will have a high uric acid in their blood. And uric acid is present in everybody. It's kind of a breakdown product from nucleic acids and DNA. And we make this stuff and then we excrete it. But it seems to be high in patients with obesity and metabolic syndrome. And it can cause a disease called gout, where you get this arthritis that affects typically the big toe. And the bad part is that if you're pre-diabetic, it increases your risk to become diabetic. If you have elevated blood pressure, it increases your risk to become hypertensive. If you're overweight, it increases your risk to become obese. So it's one kind of related problem. Some people present more with the fatty liver, others present more with the diabetes, but it's all part of one syndrome. So that means that there could be a central mechanism driving it all. In 20 years old, it seemed like for many of us that we were invincible. We could eat anything we want. We could do anything we wanted to do. Didn't matter. We weren't going to gain weight, but something changed. We call it our metabolism has changed. We're now, as we get older, suddenly it's easier to gain weight. But why is that? So the first thing to know is that animals actually regulate their weight really well. If they eat too much one day, they'll eat less the next. They keep their weight stable. If you overfeed them or if you fast them, their weights will change, but then when you stop that, they'll go right back to the weight, and not just their normal weight for that time of the year. It's really interesting. So weight is normally tightly regulated. But there are some animals that will intentionally gain weight. And so they'll maintain their normal weight 9 months a year, and then, a few months before winter, suddenly they start preparing for winter, and they start eating a lot, like the bear, the hibernating ground squirrel. And the weight, the fat, actually provides a caloric source. It's a type of calorie they can use when there's no food around. Well, it's not just the calories and the energy that's produced. When you burn fat, you also produce water. And for some animals in the world, they're really, water is kind of a critical thing. And so if you like living in the desert, it's good to have a little extra fat on board, because when you burn the fat, you produce water. That's why the camel has a hump on its back. So in the wild, fat is a good thing. Fat can keep you alive. Fat is a mechanism to help you survive when there's no food and no water. But it isn't, when these animals become fat, it isn't just they become fat. They actually develop all those features of metabolic syndrome that we were talking about that we get. They become insulin resistant. They raise their blood pressure. They increase the fat in their liver. They increase the fat in their blood. They do all these different things that we see in people with metabolic syndrome.
Annotated and summarized. Easy to share with loved ones. The description below the title for this video has these summary points.
From the website doctorstotrust.com, you can view the summary notes and share or print the PDF of those notes.